Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the few in attendance and the thousands listening around the world, let's get ready to gamble. My name is Tony Cavallo. As always, I'm joined by Matthew Dangles, D'Angelo Antonio, Schaefer the Sharp, Drew Schaefer Crookson, and we are the West Coast Gamblers, a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network and the only gambling show that makes you money. Unless you listen to Matt D'Angelo Antonio's Sunday Bets, who did not make anyone money at all.
I did if you bet on the Saints-Packers under. I did hit on that one, but unfortunately, and if you took my Thursday night lean, you hit.
Listen.
And if you bet on the under in the Pats-Dolphins game, you hit. But yeah, not so great on the ones that I gave out officially for the contest.
Listen, we as a podcast started out very well. 3-1 in our Thursday leans. 3-1 in our Thursday leans is a hell of a start. As for the King of the Coast, where we give out 5 bets each, 3 sides, a teaser, and a total, yours truly went 3-2, ended up accumulating 7 points in the King of the Coast contest because I hit my best bet, my Brinks truck bet, Houston +3, and that was never even in doubt.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Drew,
I want to address that later, Tony.
Drew, you also went 3-2. You only accumulated 6 points in the King of the Coast rankings, but 3-2 as well for you. Dangles, 1-4 are that 2-point under you got. And then the Sunday Night Football game, gentlemen, we dropped the ball. We went 0-3 as a group in the Sunday Night Football lock. We really got to put our mind to it. Drew and I lost the under in that game. I mean, when you open up the game with a 70-yard touchdown pass, that under is going to be in trouble. Dangles, your Sony Michel anytime touchdown. I believe I saw Sony Michel 2 times in the entirety of that game.
I was so disappointed. I felt really good about that bet, too. Like, I thought we'd see him around the goal line, and, you know, sometimes the stuff just doesn't go your way.
Tough to score when you don't play, Dangles. I don't think that's on you, but it's tough to score when you don't play.
Wise sage words from our Sharp.
Yeah. But let's start off this Sunday recap section. I gave you a little bit of the recap bets. We do have a guest coming on the show today, Mr. Steve Reeder, who did a hell of a lot better than we did in his Sunday bets. We have the Gravestones section coming up where each of us kills a team saying they won't make a playoff in this calendar year. And then we also have a new segment we're debuting called Dr. Dangles, which I'm very excited about. But before we get there, it's time to recap. I gave you what we did in the bets, but let's recap some of the Sundays. Listen, I know I got a Green Bay flag hanging behind me. Do we want to start off with the terrible Packers, or do we want to start off somewhere better? I mean, all of our teams lost this weekend.
I can start off for you, Tony. I can start it off.
Oh, good.
I thought you'd be excited, Dangles. Listen, I have 4 teams all lost on Sunday, and I want to say 2, we're not panicking, and 2, we're panicking. My 2 teams that lost, that I say, let's just relax. Let's maybe bury the football, forget about it. The Buffalo Bills, and of course, Tony, your Green Bay Packers. That performance was so inexcusable and such an outlier, especially for Aaron Rodgers coming off. He usually comes like a bat out of hell early in the season. I think he's had 6 straight season openers, victories. He's been at least 3-1, I think, for those 6 seasons. So if you're a Packers fan, which I know you are, I know that was an alarming performance. I know that Buffalo Borak is mortified. His Bills lost to the Steelers. But let's just pump the brakes a bit. I think both those teams are just fine, especially in Tony. There's nothing like chicken soup for a struggling football team than playing the Detroit Lions at home on Monday night. I think you guys will get good quick. The two teams that I saw.
Hold on. Let me stop you there before you go to panic teams, because I do want to add a little bit of panic to this Green Bay roster. This was the least prepared Green Bay team I've seen in Matt LaFleur's tenure. And it wasn't just badly prepared on the defensive side. We actually did pretty well against Kamara in the run until later in the game. The pass defense was horrific, still falling into the same traps that we had under Mike Pettine's offense. But the Aaron Rodgers, he was missing throws, not only throws that he hit last year, but he was missing reads. And this is the 3rd year in an offense that he should know like the back of his hand. And he's hitting Aaron Jones late. He's hitting Devontae Adams late, MVS late. Randall Cobb, thanks for playing. Thanks for coming back. Where were you in this entire game? I'm a little bit worried that Aaron Rodgers' lethargy during the offseason has crept into the real season. And if he's going to play this game like it's, I got this, don't worry, we'll be fine, we're not going to be fine against a Detroit team that fought their asses off in that San Fran game. They were down 33-11, I believe, at one point.
41-17. 41-17.
Insane. Yeah. And then they came back to make it an 8-point game and ruined a lot of people's late covers on the San Fran 49ers.
What happened?
But Detroit will not give up. in this game, and Green Bay came out giving up against this Saints team. So I am worrying a little tiny bit. And as for the Buffalo Bills, yours truly told you a little bit about Josh Allen regression, and we saw that. You have to be able to run the ball in the NFL, and they did not even attempt to run the ball against the Pittsburgh defense, who is much better than everyone in the world told you except for Tony Cavallo. But Drew, now you can go to the panic mode.
No, you're right, Tony. Listen, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I watched every snap of that Packers Saints game.
I've
but
seen
it's
it
just one of those
twice,
games.
sadly. I've seen it effing twice.
You must not like yourself, my man. We should talk about that in Dr. Dangles later. Love yourself, my man. But anyway, again, I'm not. You're the Packer expert. You're the Packers fan. I just refuse to believe that they're not going to be back sooner than later. But the two teams, I absolutely say, Houston, we have a problem. Not the Texans, by the way, Tony. The Tennessee Titans and Atlanta Falcons, guys, they are in trouble. I'm going to tell you right now, it does not matter. The Titans, listen, it does not matter if you have Derrick Henry when you can't block for him and you can't protect Tannehill to get out to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And on top of that, your defense is a sieve. And I know I hated the Cardinals. And listen, Kyler was great. Obviously, Chandler Jones, 5 sacks, incredible. Great game. Great game by the Cardinals. I'm not going to put too much stock in that performance. I think that's more a sell on the Titans. And guys, what the hell happened in Atlanta? Again, Philly, very impressive. Both sides of the ball. I think Philly quietly has one of the best offensive lines in football. And Hurts finally, like I said in my Mary fuck kill, I was kind of frisky with the Eagles there on the NFC East. I like what I saw, but guys, the Falcons, what in God's name? And I think Tony Squares might talk about that later in Dr. Dangles. If you had a Falcons ticket, I am sorry. They are bad, and I don't see that team getting better anytime soon.
They looked really bad. And I'll tell you who they're missing, and it's kind of funny. You mentioned the Titans. They're really missing a Julio Jones-type presence in the red zone. Twice early in this game when it was a competitive game, they were down in the red zone, had to settle for field goals because they had no one to throw it to. Calvin Ridley was easy to cover. After the first drive, Calvin Ridley was not to be seen, and Kyle Pitts obviously just isn't ready to be there. The best-looking player on that offense was Cordero Patterson, and I'm saying that with honesty. I thought he looked great coming out of that running back. He was running hard and getting extra yards, but if Cordero Patterson's the best player in your offense is in trouble. Arthur Smith also a little bit too timid at the end of the second half there. He's backed up at his own 5-yard line. He runs 2 draw plays in a row, ends up kicking it down to Jalen Hurts, who gets it at the 40-yard line, and Jalen Hurts scores a touchdown. Again, like some of these coaches and some of their decisions that they're making are a little bit worrisome to start us off. I will say Nick Sirianni, an amazing decision. When you score a touchdown to go up 7, and instead of kicking an extra point to go up 8, you go for the 2, go up 9. 2 scores to enter the second half. That's next level thinking by a first-year head coach in his first game. Really like what I saw out of Sirianni and the Eagles. Drew?
And last thing before I want to hear what Dangles has to say. Last thing, Russell Gage, wasn't he some popular like number 2 option in fantasy? Russell Gage, like what? Where is he? He had zero receptions for 0 yards and 2 targets. I thought this guy was going to come in as a solidified number 2 to spell Ridley and Pitts. Like something's going on there. I did not like what I saw at all.
Yeah, meanwhile, a former wide receiver led that team in rushing, Cordero Patterson, their lead rusher that day. And then Matt Ryan had a really rough game, I think threw for less than 200 yards. Guys, the story of this game, 6 punts by the Atlanta Falcons and 2 turnovers on downs, just not able to generate it. They're definitely one of the teams I might be hitting the panic button on. The other one, guys, has to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your first overall pick comes out and doesn't really shine the way he should, and you lose to a Texans team that you should beat. Man, I don't love that at all for the Jacksonville Jaguars going into this year. But guys, how about the debut of Mac Jones? Let's talk about the Patriots for a second. This was great. I'm so happy with what I saw. He looked great and poised in the pocket. There were moments where I felt like he still looked like a rookie, but he made some big boy throws yesterday. And ultimately, it wasn't really his play that doomed us in the end. It was an inability to hold on the football with Damian Harris coughing the ball up inside the 10-yard line on a potential game-winning drive. Something you absolutely hate to see, and that was the second fumble by the running core. Mac had another fumble where he just kind of tossed the ball into the ground. I'm not really sure if it was a broken play or if it was a miscommunication, but I was happy to see so much of the offense getting involved. He threw passes to 8 different receivers. The tight ends were involved as well, and the defense played okay. It's a loss I don't love, but I'm not unhappy to take, and I liked what I saw out of my first-year quarterback, and I can't wait to watch him again next week against the hated New York Jets.
Well, can we talk about that roughing the passer call very quickly?
There was a couple of them. In my Green Bay game, too, there was a couple of roughing the passer calls that were questionable at best.
The one where Matt got taken down at his ankles?
So listen. It's common knowledge in 2021 NFL, you cannot – the quarterbacks honestly should play without helmets because as soon as you touch your helmet, you're going to get flagged. I'm fine with that. Protect the player, whatever. But that specific play, Mac, and forgive me, Dangles, what was that defender for the Dolphins? His name's escaping me right now. But the defender is going towards Mac, and he's falling down. Now, he has two choices. He can grab Mac's hips and try to bring him down, or since he's off balance, he can basically swan dive into the turf and potentially hurt himself and break his neck. What is he supposed to do? He grabs him and kind of just wills him down gently, just kind of twist him. That's a personal foul. Again, I had money on the Patriots.
Yeah.
I had money on the Patriots. I have Mac Jones, Roy ticket with you boys. I'm rooting for them to win. I saw that call and I'm like, if that gets called this year, again, this is always a topic with personal fouls, but the NFL has got to make that call reviewable. It just has to be reviewable. How is that? No. How do you penalize a team 15 yards for that? That is pathetic and sad.
I agree. It's tough, but I don't want any more reviews than what we've had. I actually thought there was a lot of really good non-calls and calls for most of the Sunday slate that I saw, except for the Green Bay and New England roughing the passer calls. Those were horrendous. Before we move on to teams that we're excited about from week one, I want to give you one more team that needs to worry and one more team that needs to panic, because I don't know if you guys know this, but the Green Bay Packers are still first in the NFC North because the whole entire division lost. And the team that I think needs to worry the most is the team that lost to the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's the Minnesota Vikings.
I was going to mention them too.
Listen, I watched that game again too, and they opened up their first drive. Granted, it's Cincinnati. They're loud, who dat, and everyone's yelling and all this stuff. They had 3 false starts on the first drive, proceeded to have more penalties than anybody else in the whole entire weekend. Dalvin Cook, if he didn't break as many tackles as he did, every time I saw him, he was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage and then somehow still getting yards. He didn't have a great stat line, but again, watch that game. He is a beast, and he's just running behind nothing. Kirk Cousins doesn't have any time to throw the ball, and when he does have time to throw the ball, he's checking it down to these receivers, who, again, Dalvin Cook is making plays. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that he was allowed to start throwing the ball deep, and the reason why Minnesota even brought this game into overtime is another stupid decision by a young head coach out there. Cincinnati is up 21-7. They have the ball on their own 30 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Again, now Minnesota is not only trying to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, but they're trying to beat the clock. And instead of punting it away when his defense has held this Minnesota team to 7 points through almost 3 full quarters, they decide to go for it on 4th and short from their own 30-yard line. They do not get it. Minnesota gets the ball, scores on a 4th down play of themselves because their offense, that's how bad it's been, on an Adam Thielen drag route that goes 25 yards in the end zone, giving Minnesota a short field under a little clock to get a 7-point game and make it a game again. Listen, Minnesota should have lost this game by more than 2 scores, even with Eli Apple covering Adam Thielen on the other side. I'm pretty sure I could get a slant route off of Eli Apple right now. I know he's your friend, Drew. He sucks at playing football. The Minnesota Vikings need to really figure their shit out, because right now it's not going to work. And if they're going to lose in a game that they shouldn't have even been in Cincinnati, the rest of this year is going to be really bad. And I don't think Mike Zimmer is the coach of this team next year. I'm a little worried for the Minnesota Vikings. That's all I got to say.
Tony, I completely echo that sentiment. And all I could think about real quick, let's give a shout out to our guest on our division previews. I mean, I'm just going to go down the line. Fernando Ramirez, Chargers are going to be good. Matthew Collar for the Vikings. The Vikings will not be good. Zach Ewing, watch out for the Saints. K Deuces likes the Cardinals. I mean, let's give it up. For week one, for week one, they did pretty good. But guys, full disclosure here, we're a show of transparency. I'm in the Super Contest and Circa Millions. I went 3-2 in Circa, and Westgate, I was 2-2. I had the Vikings at -3. And listen, a lot of guys I respected was on that side. I thought it was the right side. I thought Burrow would come out rusty. I don't think but more importantly, Tony, just what you said. I thought Zimmer would have that team ready to play. They clearly had they were not prepared. And guess what? That carried over into a shitty preseason. That's going in Schaefer the Sharp's brain bank right there, boys. So sometimes the regular season doesn't fix all problems. The Vikings were an absolute dumpster fire in the preseason, and they sucked. They still should have got a backdoor push there and got me half point. They did not do that, but it was to completely the wrong side. But you'd be relieved to know, Tony, that big Vikings fan Josh Mills says it was the ref's fault that they lost.
Oh, of course, as all Vikings fans do. I'm sure what's his face will write a book about it. But let's move on now to the team that we're excited about, the team that think that week one really impressed us, whether they won or lost, that you think you're riding the train on. And I just want to go first because I was right about these Pittsburgh Steelers. That defense is going to cause problems against anybody that they face, including the presumptive MVP before he's even crowned, Josh Allen. And that offense can do just enough. Listen, Najee Harris did not have the rushing game that we wanted, but he was out there for almost every snap, and he's going to be a player this year. That offensive line could not protect Big Ben, but again, that offense is designed to get the ball out early at Big Ben's hands. And when Chase Claypool, all you got to do is throw it in a catapult. Chase Claypool is going to climb a ladder and get it over a defender, some of the best defenders in the world. I love this Pittsburgh team. And this Buffalo team did not look good against that Pittsburgh defense. Pittsburgh covered them very well. I mean, I'm pretty sure someone told Cole Beasley that the vaccine was in the NFL football because he was dropping everything out there. I really think Pittsburgh has a chance to win their division with all these injuries into Baltimore and Cleveland not looking like they should, and I've never been more right on taking the Pittsburgh over 8.5. I love this Pittsburgh team this year. Dangles, let's go to you. What team impressed you the most?
Man, well, I mean, you mentioned Cleveland. I mean, holding it to within 4 points of the Kansas City Chiefs in week one is pretty damn impressive. I think that team is going to be better than a lot of people think. But how about our Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football? Absolutely sticking it to the Bears. Matthew Stafford, what a debut in Los Angeles. What a debut with Sean McVay. It's really amazing to see what you can do with him with a full slate of offensive weapons and not just one guy to throw it to other than a check down to the running back. I mean, Matthew Stafford was still able to throw for 4,000-yard seasons in Detroit, throwing to nobodies. I can't imagine what's going to happen this year when he's got Cooper Kupp, he's got Robert Woods, he's got Tyler Higbee, he's got Van Jefferson, he's got Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer is on the Chargers, who we also love. But point being, there's a lot of guys on this offense to throw to, a lot of options for Matthew Stafford. I loved what I saw out of that offense. They appear to be the class of the NFC West right now. I'm very excited to live in the same city in this team and ride what I hope will be a hype train that continues on throughout the season.
I personally
you got a team that you love?
Well, Dangles, I personally was very surprised at my emotions and my excitement, and I shared it with my father watching Stafford play for the Rams. I can't help but root for him. He was so fired up,
didn't he?
Dude, he looked awesome. He looked with joy,
like he was
you know what I'm saying?
Playing football for the first time in a long time, and he'll probably demur and say, I loved playing it, blah blah blah. But he looks like he's actually having fun out there now.
I never saw him dance like he did, and then that touchdown to Jefferson. I thought it was awesome. But guys, look, the NFC West got all the pub, rightfully so.
Yeah.
This best division of football. But I think, in my opinion, Dangles, couldn't agree with you more about the Browns. I feel good about my pick, my preseason pick, to have them in the AFC Championship. That's a team, I'm telling you right now, they're built for January. They're only going to get better. They looked pissed off that they looked pissed off that they lost that game, not that they're happy to be in it. But the two teams I want to talk about very quickly, because everyone talks about NFC West, rightfully so. I think the second best division in football this year, at the end of the year, could possibly be the AFC West. We talk about the Chiefs. Guys, I was so impressed with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, as we'll hear Steve speak in a minute, I mean, my God, if that guy's not a top 5 quarterback at the end of the year, I'd be surprised. And again, I know they didn't play the best team in the New York Giants, but I was so impressed with Teddy Theodore Covers.
Covered.
He did cover, but I think that team, I said I was high on that team. I bought a bunch of stock in them early. I think the Broncos are a playoff team based off, of course, week one. But I just liked Teddy's. I just liked his demeanor. I like his leadership. He was smiling when his helmet came off. I really like that team. Maybe Fangio and Shermer has got their head out of their ass for a little bit here, can actually coach that team up. But Broncos, Chargers, I'm buying those two teams.
Drew, were you one of the many Detroit Lions fans who noticed immediately that was not Kelly Stafford they were showing on the screen when they showed a random blonde woman?
My parents and myself and my wife watching that game on Sunday Night Football, my mom immediately goes, "That's not Kelly Stafford. I follow her on Instagram." and She called it first, and I go, I didn't know her well enough. I go, I think you're right, Mom. She was right. And Tony, I can't get out of this segment without giving you some love. My mother, big fan of Tony Squares over there. She heard your pick, and for 1 second, The Square graduated from Square School. Let's give Tony some props. His best bet, the Texans, +3, I think was the best bet of the entire weekend. Again, hindsight, I didn't have the cojones, like Tony talked about, to take it. That was so easy. And my mother signed up with, again, our free promo code with WCG. She had some play money. Guess what? She put $25 on a free bet. Houston Texans, not the spread, baby, the money line. And Mrs. C came home victorious. She's got some money in that account now. Yeah. So good on you, Tony.
I think if I can make her $1 for every curse word I've used on this show, that's enough.
Just about to say, is the money that she was betting with
that's
the
money
swear
that
jar.
We've?
I was just about to say that's the swear jar money from the podcast. I knew it. Going to good use. I would expect nothing less and hope for nothing less from Mrs.
Hey, I want to wrap this up, Tony. I know we've gone long, but can I just talk give me 60 seconds on my Detroit Lions? Everyone made fun of Dan Campbell, rightfully so. Okay, but what I saw in that team. If Patricia's coaching that team last year, it's 41-17. The game ends 60 to somehow they would lose points, 60-9 or something. I don't even know. But
nice.
I'm telling you, that team is not going to roll over. They're going to bite kneecaps. I loved what I saw. Just the fight. It's a terrible roster, but imagine this. Imagine me watching that game with rabid Lions fans and knowing that I have a best bet. I got a good number at -7.5.
Yeah.
And in both my contests, San Francisco -7.5. God, that is uncomfortable. I did not like that at all. Of course, I just had to sit there quietly and kind of root. But man, if they would have backdoored me on that pick, just like you, Dangles, or just like you said last week, Dangles, I would have never, ever bet against them ever again, saying that. I love the Packers to blow them out this week.
I am afraid that many of the game scripts for this season are going to be much like what we saw yesterday, where Team A gets out early and the Lions end up clawing back in the final quarters, whatever that's worth from a betting perspective. But unfortunately, as I'll allude to later on in the show, I'm not very hot on the Lions' prognosis for later this year.
A couple of years ago, they were the Cardiac Cats. I think they're the backdoor cover Cats this year, and it's going to be a terrible team to bet against. But as you said, Drew, I'm very thankful that I helped your mom out and our listeners out and myself out giving out Houston +3 as my Brinks truck bet. But if you listen to that Thursday show, at the very beginning I said with my first side I wanted to take Cincinnati +3.5, but I didn't have the balls to do so. Sometimes you got to learn to play with your gut, because instead I took the Atlanta Falcons -3, and it gave me a case of something, folks. Gave me a case of something that I need to visit a specialist for. So after this sponsorship, we're going to have a new segment to this show, the first ever segment of Dr. Dangles. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Tony Squares, Schaefer the Sharp, Drew Schaefer Crookston. I want to thank you both for making yourselves available today and coming to join me and be together here for a session that I hope will prove helpful, not just to the two of you, but to me as well. I am, of course, Dr. Matthew Dangles D'Angelo Antonio, not a real doctor, by the way. This is a spoof. Please don't cancel us. And we're here to talk about, guys, something that we all experience in the gambling world from time to time. And frankly, if we're being honest, it's probably me who needs to go find a therapist of my own after my showing this week. But the two of you mentioned to me that there are some issues that you want to work out. So I thought I'd invite you into this safe space to talk about some of these problems, to work through some of the issues, and hopefully talk out some of your feelings on why you made the bets that you did and why you did things that in your heart you probably knew were the wrong thing and did them anyway. Now, of course, we have a limited amount of time. My time is valuable. Your time is valuable. I don't do this for free. So just keep that in mind as we're discussing this. But I'm going to go ahead and start our time right now. And I guess, Tony Squares, I'll start off with you, because you've shared with me a specific ailment that you have in this sort of couple marriage that we have going on, something that's affecting both of you. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it's a little personal, but I mean, you are a doctor, so I wanted to get this out of the way and just be open with you and up front. But I do suffer from something that affects me only really on Sundays, occasionally a Thursday or a Monday, and it just leaves me, I don't know, I get really anxious during it, and then I'm eventually severely depressed afterwards, and it's really affecting the relationship between myself and the Sharp. And as far as I can tell, it's a severe case of Atlantitis.
It's not the first time, Tony. It's not the first time.
No,
You've done
it's
this
really
before.
not, and I keep going back to the well. I know it's wrong for me, but it's just the red and the black, and they look so cool. And this year they had a new head coach. Arthur Smith was supposed to be the guy that changed it. Dan Quinn was no longer there, and we thought Dan Quinn was the cause of this Atlantitis, but I don't know what it is. It's just really ruining my Sundays and ruining our relationship with the Sharp.
And Tony, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, it makes
I can tell you how it makes me feel, Dangles.
Schaefer the Sharp, how does it make you feel?
Sorry, Dr. Dangles. Dr. Dangles.
Yes,
it makes
doctor.
it makes me feel sad because I hate seeing someone I love put himself in harm's way over and over and over again. He can't quit Matt Ryan. He always thinks, oh, this could be the year where the offense explodes and their defense will be better than expectations. But guess what? It never fucking is.
Since they blew that tight end in the 4th overall pick. Should have been amazing.
What could go wrong? Kyle Pitts, yeah, he's got a 6-pack, but guess what? All the Falcons do is make you drink 6-packs on Sundays all the time, and not in a good way.
Indeed. Now, at Schaefer the Sharp, over the course of this weekend, I also understand you started to feel some symptoms of something. You want to share a little bit more information about what that is, so I can hopefully walk through maybe how we can help you.
Thank you.
Yeah, doctor, I have a hard time scoring points in the 4th quarter when I take an over. I don't know what it is, if it's just task management or I'm just afraid of completing something, but like I took the over in the Cardinals-Titans game at 51.5 or 52.5, I'm sorry, and well, they scored 51 points in the first 3 quarters, and the pace of play was back and forth, and then...
I'm sorry to be laughing. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You think it's funny.
This is a safe space.
Tony?
This is a safe space,
Okay.
gentlemen. This is a safe space.
Okay, but I don't know what it is, but I can't score points in the 4th quarter. I'm not sure if it's a commitment issue. I'm not sure if I'm just afraid. It makes me angry, but I know an anger is just really just a reflection of my own pain.
Drew,
and
if I may interrupt, what is it about the 4th quarter that draws you to it so much, especially in situations where you know it might be harmful to you?
Well, I would love to know, because they scored 51 points in 3 quarters, doctor, and they can't score 1 point, or 2 points. And Tony didn't even tell me that I was betting on the kicker, Matt Prater, who missed a 34-yard field goal that would have put me over the over. Well, he hates missing field goals about as much as he likes drinking Mai Tais in Hawaii in the offseason. And it just, I'm constantly getting in harm's way here with these overs. Like, why can't I score 1 point in the 4th quarter? Not one.
Doctor, if there's anything you can do to help him finish in this scenario, it'd help out both of us.
I think maybe the advice that I would give you is go with sure things in week 1, as close to sure things as you can find. We are, yes, a betting podcast, but at the same time, we have to be thoughtful of the fact that we don't have a lot of information to go off of in week 1. And this is advice, honestly, I should probably take myself. Going after reaches, going after things that are questionable, teams we don't know about, teams that we're not sure if they can cover spreads in the 4th quarter. Maybe that's more self-destructive than we'd allow ourselves to believe in the moment of making the bet.
But going after the Atlanta Falcons just felt so good.
Right,
and who doesn't like a Kyler Murray over? It's Kyler Murray and the Titans defense. How can that not go over? They scored 51 points in 3 quarters, doctor. I just don't think something's going on. I just think I'm afraid of completing a task. I'm afraid.
I think one thing I would definitely recommend is that A, you don't blame yourselves, and B, that you don't blame each other, because that's how angry feelings get fostered, and that's when things start to get bottled up, and things get pent up and issues get repressed, and obviously that's what this space is for, hopefully, but in the long run, it's best not to blame each other, and it's best not to blame yourselves, because some of these things are outside of our control. We can only make the best decisions that we have with the information that we have at the time, and it's very easy for us now to look back and say, well, I would have done this, and I should have done this, and why did I bet on Atlanta, and why did I bet on the 4th quarter? Why did I bet on the on the over? Why did I bet on them covering in the 4th quarter? And we have to take these lessons and learn from them and move on in the future. Now, I'm hopeful that you boys can go away from this using this knowledge to better your football marriage, to better your betting marriage, and to better yourselves as individual bettors.
I feel better.
Thank you, doctor.
I'm glad. And that is all the time we have today, unfortunately. Up next, our guest, Steve Reeder from the Betting Predators.
All right, boys, it's the first week of the season. We've had games play, and that means it is time to play everyone's favorite game, my favorite game, a game we've played for 5 years on this show. It's time to play Gravestones. The Gravestones game means every host here is going to pick one team and one team only to put into the ground and say they will not make the playoffs for this 2021 season. At the end of the year, each of us should have 14 teams left, alive, living in this world, and they should be the 14 playoff teams remaining. Now, there's a chance the team we kill today has a merging run at the end of the season and makes us look like fools. That's not going to happen, at least to my team. Now, we do this in a certain order because I won King of the Coast, as you heard earlier. I'm going to go first. Drew's going to go second. Dangles is going to go third. And that is important because if a host kills a team, the other host cannot kill that team that week. Now, it's a very exciting time because it's already proven some of these teams are absolute dog shit. Sorry, Mrs. Crookston. But without any further ado, let us end our first Tuesday recap show with the first 2021 edition of Gravestones. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to say goodbye to 1, 2, and 3 NFL franchises. The first of which was a sad one to go, for it is one of the nation's most popular franchises, and while one of the good friends of this show, Alexander Joshua Alche, welcomes new life unto this earth, it is time to put one of his favorite teams, if not his favorite team in the whole entire world, into the cold, dead ground.
Yikes.
For Danny Turnovers, Danny Dimes is not the QB prince that was promised. David Gettleman cannot build a team, and Joe Judge certainly cannot coach one. Saquon Barkley looks as mobile as Matt Barkley out there, and this team just does not have what it takes to make the playoffs this year. So, for my first kill of the Gravestones year, I'm killing the New York Football Giants. May they rest in peace.
Godspeed. Boys, in honor of week 1, if it pleases the people and my co-host, I'd like to perform some slam poetry in a hushed tone.
Come on, I'm trying to keep a straight face here, man. This is somber.
I'd like to perform some slam poetry in a hushed tone from an old foe. And that performance will start in 3, 2, 1. Duval! Oh, look, it's an Urban Meyer trust fall. I see Urban on the sideline, weathered and rigid, trying not to think about his shitty defense, which on Sunday was downright frigid. He closes his eyes, leans back, and falls to the ground, trusting that his past accomplishments will catch him, or his experience in Gainesville or Columbus, where he once was crowned. Boom! His head hits the pavement, blood and brains everywhere. This is the NFL, Urban Liar, where your egotistical dictatorship style and your bullying behavior gets you no hardware. I know it's only week 1, but the Sharp is putting all his eggs in this basket. The Jaguars are dead. Close the fucking casket.
Well, boys, I'm very glad to hear that Drew's hatred of Urban Meyer has extended into the Gravestone segment, because I wasn't sure really what I was going to do being the third person here on Gravestones after a horrendous weekend of bets. However, thankfully, because Drew hates Urban Meyer so much, he's left me wide open to put his Detroit Lions in the ground as my first Gravestone of the week. Yes, they did climb back into a game in which they were from the start very much outmatched. And yes, Jared Goff did throw for... I'm so sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Well, this is the joy of life.
Clearly wasn't a closed church.
Clearly was not
Clearly
a closed
an open church. The wedding is coming later. We have one more team to kill.
They're trying to rush us out of here.
Proceed with your destruction of the Michigan men.
The Detroit Lions may have showed some fight yesterday, but for the Motor City Kitties, year 1 is just not going to be that year for Dan Campbell. I am killing the Detroit Lions this week as my first Gravestone team.
And that has been week 1 of Gravestones. And that is it for a very chock full of fun week 1 recap podcast. I'm very excited for the future, excited to come back on Thursday with some winners. Again, yours truly is already leading the King of the Coast. I'm excited to continue that process. This show is 3-1 in Thursday lean, so be sure to listen to this show right when it comes out on Thursday if you want to get a bet out for Thursday Night Football, because we know what we're talking about. And the game this week is the football team and the Giants. You're going to want to listen to us to make that game interesting. But for Tony Cavallo, for Schaefer the Sharp, Drew Schaefer Crookston, for Matthew Dangles, D'Angelo Antonio, big thanks to our guest Steve Reeder of the Betting Predators and at Avoid the Vig on Twitter. We are the West Coast Gamblers, a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network and the only gambling show that makes you money. Before we go, boys, you got anything to say to the betting public out there?
Grab those lines early. If there's one thing I gleaned from Steve, it's these look-ahead lines are important. Grab them early. I might post some early line movement on my Twitter and make some bets early here, boys.
Well, that's a tease. That's what we call a tease. Dangles, you got anything? Dr. Dangles, regular Dangles?
Stay away from the Jaguars. Don't bet on the Jaguars.
Fair enough. And on that, thank you for listening.